You're listening to the Nothing Podcast with Nobody Important, where a group of nobodies speak to an actual somebody. And now your hosts, John and Frank.
Good evening and welcome to the Nothing Podcast Live. I'm John, as always, with Frank and Danielle, and today with Kayode. We felt it was right to take this opportunity to speak briefly on this week's activities regarding the civil unrest and the murder of George Floyd. And I apologize in advance. I wrote this statement to fully express our feelings. I know what you might be thinking. Here are more white people trying to tell us about what they don't understand. Or what could 3 white people have to say about this? And the answer is not much, because now is not the time for speaking. It's the time for listening. Initially, we were going to silence our shows this weekend to clear the airwaves for more important voices to speak on the unrest. But after conversing with some of our close friends and family in the Black community, we came to the realization that talking about it is what's most important. And for far too many years as a society, we've been not talking about it, and that time is thankfully behind us. The concept of our show has always been to learn and better understand the people around us, to educate ourselves about the lives of the people we see and interact with every day. And yes, that includes both people of various ethnicities, including the Black community, and various careers, including the police. We're not here to make blanket statements or to forgive or condemn any mass group of people, but we are here to learn, discuss, and acknowledge the society we live in. And right now, the bottom line is one of those communities is really hurting, and that has to change. For those of you who know us, you know that we're not protesters, we're not marchers, we're talkers. But hopefully by the end of this discussion, you'll see that even just talking about it has its values as well. As interviewers and as people, we stand firmly with this movement against racism and for social equality. We don't know how to fix this, or sometimes even what to say. But we also know that just because you don't know the answers doesn't mean you stop asking the questions. Our platform is small, but it's a platform nonetheless, and tonight we hope to lend that platform to some thoughtful, honest, and transparent conversation. So, we're going to do that.
I thought this was a comedy show. I'm not doing this.
It is a comedy show, Frank. So tonight we welcome our friend Kayode Howard.
How you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Good, man. I'm good. Thank you.
Kayode is, I keep going Kayode.
It's all right. It's going to take some time.
Work. You host a film web series, with a focus on Black film and the African-American culture in film. And we thought it would be great for you to come on, and you wanted also to talk to us about your feelings as a Black man in America, and kind of talk us through what's happening and what we can do and kind of suss it out a little bit. I think because as like I said, 3 white people, it's hard for us to really talk about it, but we have to.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. This is the most emotional I've felt about this situation as far as the murders of unarmed African Americans. What's been happening with me personally is I've been seeing everything that's been happening. And let's go back to like when this first, like Trayvon Martin, you know, when that first happened, that struck a chord, but life kind of continued, right? And then I started seeing all these other different situations that was happening in the Black community with Black men and women who were suffering from the hands of these police officers who in most cases weren't doing their job correctly and therefore were murdering these people. But this one, George Floyd, this one has lit like a flame or a fire in me of more frustration and anger and sadness that we're still going through this in 2020.
Sure.
Racism never left. Surprised everybody. Surprised. I don't know if I got the cat out the bag, but racism never left. It's always been here. It's been It's been covered by masks of just many different things that now with the current climate in our government, with who we have currently within office and things like that, has now sparked this group of people who are now expressing that hate and racism for Black people. So John, guys, I am loving what I'm seeing as far as the peaceful protests.
Sure.
I think it is necessary. It must happen. Nothing has ever gotten done without protest. What I do want to make sure we're doing is that they're not losing the message that's really about the protest.
Yeah.
Like Black Lives Matter, I can't breathe. These need to still be the main message. If we are out there causing violence or destroying our communities, it takes away that message, and now media shines it on that.
Right.
Sure. It's a distraction from what's
It's a distraction, right? Sure. And that's what these young people out there, and they are really passionate about what's going on. They're tired of seeing it. And it's not just Black people. I see white people. I see white young people out there. I see people all colors, right, young and old. It's awesome to see that protest, but we can't lose the message. And I can't stop looking at my phone, which is crazy. Like, I'm not a guy that constantly goes on to onto my Instagrams and stuff like that, but I'm posting, I'm seeing things. It's making me more angry. Right. But I'm also seeing the beautiful side of it, which is people who actually care and want to get a positive message out. And hopefully people can see that and understand what positivity we're trying to enact versus the violence and the looting that people are shining that light on.
Right.
So
let me say, as a man who always can never stop looking at his phone, right? What sort of, we write notes sort of for the show, or just ideas we want to hit on, right? And I just want to like get two things out there off the top. And like one thing I want to say is, and I'm so happy you came on to talk. And I just don't, and I speak for my other two hosts here to say, like, we know you, obviously you're not speaking on behalf of all people of color. Like,
of course,
no one can do that. We can't speak for all white people.
Right, of course, right.
Speaking as a man with a particular set of life circumstances and experiences and understandings that we don't have. And we just value your individuality in this too, but also where you're from and your history and everything like that. So I want to get that out there first, not to make people feel like, well, this is the guy they got to talk about all Black people, because that would be ridiculous.
Oh, right.
Right, no, and we're gonna get into it, but like also you have a background in the African-American culture in entertainment and film, and like that's kind of where we live a little bit. Yeah. So like that's why your history with that is something that I want to get into. I have to say though, going back to what you said about not being able to turn away from your phone, I think now more than ever, I'm uncomfortable with all of this. And I think I should be, like I feel uncomfortable in a way that like, I said it about the coronavirus too. At the time, when coronavirus first started, I said, I can't do anything else. I want to do something else. And people are like, turn away from your phone for a little while, distance yourself, watch TV or something like that. But you can't, and you shouldn't.
Right.
You shouldn't want to, and you're thankfully, I find, unable to.
Right.
But don't you think, John, that I'm not saying we meaning me and you necessarily, but we people, white people, don't you feel like this is not new? This is not new.
Right, exactly.
All the time, and it goes through the same cycle. Here's it now because we have cell phones, it's more, here's a video, right? And it's like, this thing happened. This was unjust. People mad. It goes to trial. They're released. They say it was warranted. People are mad. It goes away. it comes up again, right? It's that sort of cycle. But we got so immune to that sort of cycle.
You know, that's the scary part, is that exactly what you said, Frank, that it's a possibility that this all goes away, right?
Right.
Without being solved. That's the problem, right?
Right.
We need in place certain, I'm not in government, obviously, John. We know that, right? So
No,
I don't write legislation, but we need something. We need to know that there will be something to protect people, young people, especially Black people, in situations that in situations where they get pulled over or they're being questioned, or I don't know what legislation is out there that really punishes those who commit these types of crimes. Because what I'm afraid to see, and what I'm afraid to see is that, like you just said, is that these guys go to court, God forbid they are found not guilty, and riots erupt, and then it quiets down and then just fades away. Right. That we're this time, I think it's different. I think we are not, Black people, especially me, I am not going to just let that can't happen anymore. Right.
Because God knows millennials love a good trend, right?
Yes, we do. Yes, we
love a good trend. Remember when the trend was wearing black sneakers with the white stripe around the bottom? That was a trend, right? It is not comparing. I'm just saying we quickly forget things and we move on to the next.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that
this time is different.
It just can't happen.
Because this is literally saying, hey, our brothers and sisters are being murdered.
Right.
That's what it is.
And they're being murdered, and it's being filmed, and it's being posted, and it's disturbing. It's upsetting. I am disgusted. But man, just think about it. Imagine us not having social media or phones or cameras. Do you know how many more murders that would have probably been hushed or never written about, never filmed, never investigated, that could have possibly happened or is possibly happening now? Like it's insane to think that because of the cameras and people capturing those moments is why we're finally seeing this and talking about this. But this has been happening for a very long time.
Right.
It's just now being documented.
Never stopped happening.
It's never stopped happening. And that's the sad part, man, is that even in 2020, we are still going through this. I in my soul, when I look at my phone and when I see the posts and all my friends who are angry and writing and texting and all about this situation, it stirs something in you. And I think this time around, people are tired. I don't think it's going away anytime soon, and it shouldn't, because we want answers. We want to hear our leaders talk about how wrong this is, right? Talk about defending Black people, right? What their Black agenda will be moving forward. Black people deserve that. They need to hear that. There needs to be some leader within our government or within the realm.
I'll stop you there. There needs to be some leader. Right.
Some leader. Right. There needs to be
John
some
and I
leader,
spoke
period.
on the phone about this for about 45 minutes today, laughing at how things have, not with this per se, but just governmentally, it's sort of like a circus. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right. And we hardly get political on this show because that's not, we don't. But we were just laughing. We're like, this is the Twilight Zone. We must Twilight, I want to ask you something, Kayode. I wrote it on the top of my page in big, and I circled it. And we talked about cycles that have been happening since forever. But I wrote, why now? Like, why has this good, but why now? And I don't know what your take on it is. My take on it is, and maybe this is going to sound terrible, and I know we're live on the air, and it's like I'm going to put in my mouth after this is recorded. But part of my take on it was that everybody was quarantined. Everybody's at home. There are less distractions, and you really see what's going on. Because you're not going to work, you're not going to eat, you're not hanging out at the movies, you're not seeing a play. And people are watching these things. Now, I'm not saying that's people of color, but as a white person, there's not much to do, I noticed, around in the last 2 months. We're seeing all this and we're going, wait a minute, this is terrible.
Right, you're seeing it because the trees are cleared. The trees
are
so you can see
cleared.
it.
There's nothing else going on.
Yes.
Is that unfair to? Is that stupid?
So no, it's not stupid, Frank. So our lives are on pause right now, right?
Right.
Which gives every single last one of us the opportunity to do and see and watch and look at things and read things that we normally don't have the time to do in our normal daily activities, right? This, like I said before, like you mentioned, this has not happened. This is not the first time this has happened. So, George Floyd is just another victim of this that was caught on camera, which is unfortunate. But now, because of the circumstance we're in and we're all home, that shines more eyes to what's happening, right? We are home. There are people who are not working. Kids are not in school. Right. And that right there gives people the time to now really act and write about it and post about it. It's the availability of time now, right? We have the opportunity to write and talk about these things because we are now all at a standstill in our lives currently. So that, Frank, it's not a weird point. It's not an insensitive point.
It's not impossible, right?
It's not impossible. I believe there would have still been obviously people who would have posted and talked about it, sure, even if we were during our normal lives. But because we are at pause, I think this gives more people the opportunity to.
Do you hear it?
Yeah.
Is your phone going off?
Yep.
No, not my phone.
That damn curfew.
Is it?
I mean.
Oh, is it?
It's curfew.
Is that you guys' curfew?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right, because you're out of the city.
I'm out of the city.
Oh, we're at curfew, 8 o'clock. Yeah, it goes off every night.
Oh, wow.
Yep. I'm surprised it's not at 7:30 exactly.
All the billboards in the city changed to curfew, 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought the curfew was at 11, but okay.
Yeah,
the first day was at 11.
The first day it was, and then they changed it to 8 p.m.
Wow.
So, what I have to say, and it's only from I can only speak to it from the perspective of a young white guy living through this, right? Which is not the best perspective to have, but it has to be a perspective, right? Mm-hmm. When this first started, like Frank said, we don't get political on this show. We don't like to isolate, although in this circumstance, if this is going to isolate you, you can isolate. But it's when I started this, when this all started, I said it to both of them. I said, I don't need to make a statement about this. If it doesn't come naturally to me, I'm not going to make a statement.
Right.
For those who know me, if you know me well enough, then you know that I am not even in any way, shape, or form like a racist, bigot, whatever you want to call it. I'm not that, and you know that, and that's all that matters, right? Now, fast forward to seeing all of this. My perspective has changed in that, and I used to get angry. I was getting angry. I said used to, it was last week, getting angry at people who said, if you're not saying anything, then you're part of the problem. And I was like, that's not fair. That's not fair.
Right.
But it is true. Now, that doesn't mean go out and look for posts to share, which is what I was doing last week. I'm like, I got to do something, I guess. But
right. But you're right.
The truth of the matter is, like, it is up to you. White people right now are afraid to get it wrong, I think, a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. You don't want to say the wrong thing but if you try to say the right thing, maybe somebody will come after you. But saying the wrong thing is better than saying nothing. I think I think. Well, not the wrong thing, but you know what I mean? Like if you're trying to say the right
Looking
thing.
at Kayode's body language on that one, John.
Well, I mean, okay, if I'm gonna go F it, I don't care. That's definitely the wrong thing. Don't say it. You know, but I heard somebody say it the other day, and they were like, nobody's born knowing everything. It's okay if you don't know what to say. Say something to let it be known where you stand, because it's so important to stand somewhere right now.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And so my whole perspective on the whole thing changed, because it went from it's not about me, that's not me, to yes, it's everyone, and it's gotta happen on a community-wide level. Your opinions have to shift and change. And I think here we are on day looking at it now, I'm saying to myself, the fact that my opinion on that changed means that this is doing something. I can't be the only one.
Yes, no, I agree with you.
Right. I agree.
So it's working, not in the way it needs to yet, but something's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, for this, no, go, Kayode, please.
Oh, no.
I enough on the show.
I think, and I'm speaking for me personally, I think what I would like to see more of is the working side, right? I want to see more people who, white people, young and old, come out and understand and support what they're seeing. Right. As far as the protests, right. The peaceful protests, right. I'm not for violence. That's not my thing. Right. I think that's what Black people want. I'm not speaking for all Black people, but I think Black people don't care about knowing that you are all lives matter, or that you are blue matters, or whatever. I think at this point in time, Black people want to know that their white friends, or the people that they know who are white, or white people who have a voice and have pull or have some type of say that people will listen to, actually come out and say, I stand with the protests. I'm against racism. This is wrong. This shouldn't be happening in 2020, and we need to do something about it. And I'm going to do something about it today by saying I stand with them. That is what we want, right? That's what I want. Right. That's what I would like to see. Right. I don't care about anything else. Right. That what you mean when I don't care about all lives matter. That doesn't matter right now. What matters right now is that we are seeing a massive amount of young Black people being slaughtered on camera, and it's being posted, and nothing truly is being done or said about it on our leadership level, and that is a problem. And it's been happening for decades. It's been happening for centuries, right? But now technology has now really brought it to the forefront. But I need to see that we are in this together, that we are one, because really that's the only way things happen, is we have to come together and really get this done and push it. Or it disappears in another month or two, right? Yeah. And then it happens again, and we do the same thing, and it disappears in another month or two. It's just, there needs to be significant change, and we need to know that white people are with us. That's what needs to happen. Can
I share a story quick?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's partly my show. I'm going to share a story.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Any of you. Shut up. So listen. So I have a master's degree in counseling, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever. So no, it's not what I'm saying. About 10 years ago, I was in that program, right? And it was a Brooklyn college. It's a CUNY, racially diverse, culturally diverse program. Really, it was a good mix. So I remember one day in one of these counseling classes, I don't know which one it was, that was taught by the head of the department, who is a brilliant Latina doctor. She's the head of the department, okay? So she said, all right, today we're going to talk about white privilege, right? Never heard this word before. 10 years ago, I never heard that phrase, right? So I sat there, and I will fully disclose that the second she said it, if I had feathers, they would have went, ah!
Yep.
And I was like, what the fuck are we talking about, right? So look, that wasn't her point, but you know, we were a mixed class. So this immediately sent a vibe through the room, okay? And I will tell you, as a white person, I said, in my mind, I was like, she's crazy. I'm not listening to this. This is bullshit. And if I had gates over my ears, they would have went down, right?
Right.
I was listening, but I wasn't happy about it. But everything she said made sense, but I still wasn't happy about it. And then she handed out a paper, she didn't write this. She must have gotten it online or in a book. And it was like a privilege checklist. And I was like, oh, this is bullshit. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. Fine. What am I going to do? And it was like a yes or no checklist. And all of it, like, can you do this without having to think twice about it? Can you do this without having to think twice about it? Because of your color, right? And there were a lot of good ones on there. And I'm sure they all resonated with me. But the one that slapped me in the face, this is going to sound so stupid, but it was a turning point. There was one and it said, I can easily find a Band-Aid in my color. I was like, this shook me bad. I was like, oh shit. I never saw a brown Band-Aid, right? And that was the first time I was like, there's a little crack in the facade here. Something's up, right? And, you know, that was the class, and the topic had come up after that for a while. But it was something I really thought about. And I do remember I said to her in the class, because I still didn't really get it. And I said, I don't understand how you can say that I'm privileged when I've had an entire life of medical problems and life has not been easy for me. True. She was like, no, I'm not saying that. That's really tough. That must have been tough for you. But it didn't have anything to do with your skin color. And I was like, fine, right? Because you don't want to be told the fact that you have privilege, because it's true, right? Because when you hear it, I don't know who coined the term, probably someone a lot smarter than me, but a part of me is like, man, they really should have called it white advantage, because I feel like when you hear privilege, it sounds like nose up in the air, like you got something you didn't deserve. I don't know. It's right. I'm not agreeing with it, but I felt like when I first heard that, I was like, excuse me? Right. Now, 10 years later, I'm like, yeah, that's 100% right. And it's ridiculous, right? And that's when I started to understand like the systemic part of this whole thing, which is really where it's at. And like, John, you know, you said, look, I'm not racist. You're not racist. I would never say you were racist, right? But do we benefit from a systemic network of ideas and policies that make things a lot easier for us? I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Yeah. And I never had to say that before. I never had to. Now, all these coming up, it's like, yeah, this is definitely a problem. And now that, you know, it's like, well, you can't really hide from it anymore because people are hurting. So what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, the topic of race always, it's always uncomfortable, right? I mean, as soon as we hear, all right, guys, we're going to talk about white privilege or Black disadvantage, you know, right? It changes the mood in a room, like you mentioned in your class. The fact that, and yes, there is, listen, white privilege is a thing. It is a thing that that has never worked. We've never had Black privilege, right? There's never been, hey, you're Black and you're privileged. I've never heard that before, right? That the day someone says that to me, I listen, I would love to hear that, right? Yeah. Right. But what's happened, and I was even talking to my grandmother about this. My grandmother's in her mid-80s. She's been alive for a lot. She's experienced a lot. She's a Black woman from Mississippi. So being in Mississippi during the 50s and 60s, you know, she went through everything from Jim Crow to whatever. She went through it all. We had a conversation a few days ago about the protests, and she said, I can't believe what I'm seeing today. I thought that this would all be over, right? I didn't think I would have to worry about you and your sister just going out on a normal day, hanging out and getting pulled over for a random reason and worrying that you're not going to come back home. She cried when Obama became president, right? She thought that the country was going in a different direction than it is today. But what is unfortunate. And she mentioned, and she said, what's happening is that the veil has been uncovered, right? And now it is for everyone to see. And the times are different in that everyone sees it and you can't escape it, right? So you have to do something, right? And if that means protest, if that means donate, if that means giving to your local Black-owned businesses, you have to do something for your people. And she I don't know, it was just a very serious conversation. My grandmother doesn't really get serious all the time, but I knew this, even for her today, it hit a button for her. And that made me upset because I don't want her to continue seeing this or have to worry about it. But it is where we are. And it is very important that as a people, as a group of people, white and Black, that we do show the oppressors and those who are out there trying to drive the narrative into a negative road of looting and burning down buildings and stuff like that, that we don't lose the message. And I'm proud to see some people not losing the message and not letting that deter them from really getting out there and protesting. I'll be protesting on Sunday. So
Cool.
Yeah, they're having a protest up here in Port Chester. So my wife and I will be out, and got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you, I think I said it to you the other day. I'm not obviously looting, rioting. It's a different thing. It's got nothing nothing to do with this, and that's the problem.
Yes.
However, I'm making excuses for it, but when it first started, we had this conversation, and I said to you, I almost see, like, after years and decades of peaceful protests, if it's not working, you gotta try something else. And I that sounds like I'm justifying looting, but I'm not. But at first, that was my thought, was like, yes, I can't stand by that. However, I can see where it's coming from. Now it's gotten to an extent where it's not coming from there anymore. Now it's just coming from opportunity. I don't know what, but it's weird. The problem is that, like you said, your grandmother was saying, you'd think that we wouldn't be there anymore. And I don't really want to get into, I always say I don't want to get into politics or super political, but we're here. What are you going to do? And honestly, like I said before, I feel very much, especially with the show, like, if you don't agree with the things I'm saying, they're so blanket obvious that, all right, see you later. But the country as a whole, and this is part of it, is trying to go backwards.
Right.
Really trying to go backwards. And I think a lot of the people who I see who are saying, this is a isolated incident, or this isn't, they want things to go back to the way they were when they were young, which is what the whole Trump thing is based on, right? Make America great again. You want to go backwards. You want to go back and do what it was then. And I think that that's really holding us back. These people, a lot of people don't even realize that they want to go back to being able to be racist, but they do. They do.
I think the again, though, was we just didn't talk about stuff. Things are great when you're willfully ignorant. It's great.
Yeah.
Great. You don't have to acknowledge there's an elephant in the room. It's wonderful.
Yes, that is very true.
Elephant in the room, right?
Very big elephant. Yeah, there's a very big elephant in the room, right?
I'd say so.
It's unfortunate because we that is where it looks like it's slowly heading to, if things don't get better, of course, that we're moving backwards, right? I also speak as I speak as a Black man, I speak as a Christian, and I speak as a man who me personally, being raised in a very Afrocentric home. My father was very, very, he made sure that my sister and I knew who we were, right? Where we came from, the troubles that we would possibly come up against as adults. He made it very clear, right? He made us watch African movies, movies based on civil rights, and movies based on slavery, right? To teach us who we are and where we come from. To see, to have that in the home, and to see on Instagram and Facebook these Black parents not yet having the conversation yet with their kids about that, because of how sad it is to even talk about the fact that if you walk out this door, there is a chance I may not see you again, is outrageous. It's insane. And that is something my grandmother went through. That's something my dad went through, and he's from Alabama. So southern state, like the southern states. But it's important. My point is, it's important that we, as we go through this, that we have those conversations, those uncomfortable conversations, even if it's with white family members, about the Black struggle, right? I would even encourage people who are not too up on Black history to go on and read some books and read about it and see, and just to read about the where we came from to where we are now, and how it almost, not quite, of course, but how it's scary to even know that it's mirroring that again. So to have those conversations with our kids, to have those conversations with loved ones is important. That I had that conversation with my parents, and I was young and I really didn't understand it, but now I see it, and now I see what they were trying to say about, it's always going to be there. You're always going to be a Black man, and don't ever think that your color won't have anything to do with certain advantages that you may not be privy to or be able to get because of that.
I gotta say one thing. You just said really profound stuff, and I was like totally in it. But then when you said you are a Black man, I happened to be looking at John, and in my mind, I pretended you said it to John, and John was like this, and I was like,
no, I have.
Sorry, to say, it's still a comedy show. Can we just acknowledge it?
I have to say that I've heard a lot of people say exactly what you're saying there, Kayode, is like the fact that people you have to have these conversations.
Yeah,
you're never not going to be judged or disadvantaged by the color of your skin, and that is absolutely awful.
Yeah,
I don't know how to get around it. I don't know what to do to get around it. I don't know if there's getting around it. And I think it starts with realizing that how awful that is. But like, I don't know do you think that, can I jump in? Yeah, sure.
Okay. I didn't know if you had another thing. Do you kind of feel like progress is made policy? Policy helps shape progress, but then it's also, progress is here too for everybody, right? So I kind of feel like it moves like this, like it doesn't matter which goes first, but it's got a step like that. And I feel like the policy is not there, obviously, but I feel like now we're getting here, and then this informs that, and then another generation pops up, or we move 15 years ahead, and then the next part, and then it's more acceptable, and you're like, oh, this makes more sense now. Then the policy shifts again, then this shifts again. I just feel like it can't, and from my mouth to God's ears, maybe this is the most ignorant thing I could say, I don't think it could go back, because we see everything now.
No, but it can stay the same. It can stay the same.
It can stay the same, right?
You need to go to school, Frank, with guys who definitely listen to the things their parents say
100%.
and carry that on. There are guys I know who I went to school with that are our age and say things that I'm like, how could you possibly be a young person in America and believe this or feel this? That is absolutely crazy to me. And
Yeah, you guys say very important. So racism is woven into this country's culture, right?
Right.
To the point where it is something that has driven people's hearts to truly hate without even really understanding why they hate, even understanding the person they're hating. It is so ingrained and so deeply rooted that I believe we'll get steps. I agree with you, Frank. I don't think we're going back like that.
Right.
I think, like what John was saying, that the progress is going to be slow, right?
Yeah. Right. And I think it has to be, unfortunately.
It has to be because of where we've come from.
Correct.
And how now we're living it differently, but it's still the stuff that we saw back in the 50s and 60s and 40s for centuries, right? It's still that, but just different. It's packaged different, right? It's handed to us differently, right?
Yeah, it's in the fabric. It's in the weave,
in the fabric.
The whole thing. Yeah.
And I believe, because I believe that we will get to a point that we are understanding and having conversations like this without there being issues or it being uncomfortable, but we're understanding each other and we're sitting back and we're like, you know what? Okay, I totally get that. And I'm sorry if I ever came off and made you feel that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's not going to be as fast as we think it should be.
Well,
I think someday we'll get there.
This conversation would have been awkward to have a month ago.
Yeah.
You know, for us. When we first started doing this show, when we were going through people, it's the Nothing Podcast with nobody important, in that we interview people whose everyday lives, be it their jobs, their lives, Frank and I understand. Or, and when we first started talking about it, I said, we should have a Black person on to talk about the Black experience. And we ultimately landed on, that might be real awkward. It might be really weird to do. Sure. Now, here I am saying, you have to. So like I said this before in my opening statement, like originally we were gonna sit quiet. We were gonna, a lot of people are doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of shows are like saying, well, we're not doing anything this week. We do 2 live shows every weekend. We do tonight and we do one tomorrow. And we weren't gonna do anything. But then I reached out to some of our friends, and Danielle and I have a lot of friends in the Black community who we consider to be like family to us. And I reached out because my heart was hurting.
Right.
Which is a terrible thing to say, because it's not my heart that needs to hurt. Like it's like it feels like almost it's not my place, but it is my place. And I so I reached out and I was like, do you think we should do this? And the answer was no. We have to talk about it. We have a platform. We have to use that platform, because talking about this is the only thing that's going to make it less uncomfortable,
less taboo.
Yeah, and it can't be.
I got to tell you, I like doing this show. We've recorded a ton of episodes. We do these lives all the time. I got to tell you, the whole day I was really excited for this. And I was like, oh shit, we get to talk about race? Yeah, man, I love it, because the veil has lifted. You could do it. We could do it without being like, well, where is this coming from? What's your real intent? I don't know. Look outside the window. That's what's happening. Right.
Kayode, I have to ask you. So your background, a lot of your background comes from Black cinema, right? So I have to say, I was thinking about it during the week. Another part of the reason why we're even able, as Frank and I, let's say, as 2, young white guys, are able to even a little bit comprehend what some of the struggles in the Black experience are, is because we've seen it portrayed in film, right? Film and TV. You say to yourself, when you watch, I don't know, the Jordan Peele Twilight Zone, right? Which is very racially driven, right? There's there's an episode where it's all about how there's just two innocent Black people worried about getting pulled over. They don't know what could happen. If you get pulled over for literally nothing, you don't know what could happen. And you see that so many times in movies and film and TV. And at first you think to yourself, well, that's a story. You're telling a story. That's overblown. Until you start to realize it's not overblown. And then you realize, okay, this is something that really happens.
Right.
You know,
Right.
So I think also that plays a huge part in it. I used to say all the time, like, I don't understand why. This is going to sound terrible, but let's understand that we've now moved past these feelings, right?
Mhm.
I used to say, like, when like a Tyler Perry movie would come out, or like Medea or whatever, any one of those, and I'd go, part of me is a little, I don't understand why they have to be so pointed at a certain community. Like, well, I don't understand that. Why? Any movie's accessible to anybody. We all breathe, we all speak English.
Mhm.
But then you start to think about it, you're like, no, I mean, as simple as it is, why wouldn't you want to be able to go to a movie and see a rom-com with people who look like you, or who have your experience in mind? And like, that makes a lot more sense to me now
Mhm.
than it did back then. It's the same reason for like BET or like anything like that. It's like, why does that have to exist? Because the experience is different.
Right.
And now think about, I just pulled out what, BET, that's one network
One network.
out of how many networks?
A ton.
A ton of networks.
A ton of networks.
Yeah, and there's one that you could say, well, maybe more than, there's more than one, but like, you know, a very small percentage where you can say, here's your lane, stay in it. We're going to take these 530 lanes instead. Like,
Yeah, it's you know, my background is all film, but I've been recently studying old blaxploitation films. Black cinema has always been an expression of the Black circumstance currently, right? If you look at old blaxploitation films from the 60s, 70s, even mid 80s, early 80s, right? They've always been films that exhibited a Black superhero almost, and taking down the bad guy, which is the white man, right? Within that film, you learn about the Black experience. You see the neighborhoods, you understand the lingo, you see the dress, you see the style, you understand the culture. And when speaking on the film terms, when I talk about blaxploitation film, because I have such a passion for it, those were the films that came out to allow people who were not Black to understand what Black people were going through art, right? Forget about the stereotypes. It was more than stereotypes. It was understanding that Black people could be heroes. Right. It was understanding that Black people and Black men and women have this swag to them where it is they're untouchable. Even the evil white man can't touch them, right? It's also supposed to show you and make you uncomfortable about the circumstance that Black people live in, you know, from horrible healthcare to bad housing to abuse and drugs being pumped in their neighborhoods, right? Right. Expression through film, and you guys know because you guys are in it too, you see now, especially in film, more artists having lanes to take, Black artists having lanes to take to show their work. And the work you're seeing is everything that we couldn't do when we wanted to do it back in the day, when people thought Black stories were, no one wants to see a Black story, no one's gonna pay for that, right? But now you see these Black love stories, you see these Black action films, you see these stories, and I want more of it. It's not even at the point where it should be, but we have made huge strides in telling our stories, and through that art form, definitely has allowed for conversations to come up like this, right? You get a full view inside the Black world, so to speak, right? Because it is different than what you would normally see in a white world, but you do get that through these old films, and even some films definitely today that make statements about the black struggle. So it's
I think just to talk about like color and representation in TV and whatever. I remember growing up, obviously white. I was a white child, believe it or not. I was,
Whoa!
I don't want to turn heads, but I was born white.
Get the hell out of here!
I was.
No, I'm like Steve Martin.
I'm
like Steve Martin in The Jerk. I was born a poor black child.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do
So good.
remember.
So good. So I remember feeling, and no one ever told me this. No one ever told me this, but I remember like being in school, and there were, we lived in like we lived in an affluent section of Brooklyn, and I went to a public school in elementary school that I would assume a lot of the kids there, now as an adult looking back, had a lot of money. And I always had 2 black girls in my class who, now that I realize it, they were the only ones who took a school bus and it bused them from somewhere else, right? And I remember, that experience, and then watching TV, and basically everybody was white. And there were a couple of kids in my class who had an accent who were white. And I remember thinking, man, that's so weird. And I didn't know the word default then, but I knew the feeling of default. And I was like, but white American speaking is the default. So if you're not default, you're somehow deviating from what's normal. And maybe a lot of people, I don't know, but I remember feeling that deeply, that like, well, I'm like the basic one, I'm the basic model. And like, why do they speak Chinese? Why didn't they just speak English? Because this is default, isn't it? And like, you kind of grow up in that, kids are extraordinarily self-centered. They're egocentric. They believe they're the center of the universe, which is why they cry when they drop the bottle, right? Because get my bottle, right? Because that's what I cry and it happens. But like, I remember growing up being like, well, they're deviant. They're deviating from what is just the
deviants.
No, they're not deviants. They're 7, right? You got to see the way she eats that sandwich. Okay, but it would be like, I look at TV, everybody's white. I go to school, everybody's white. Well, if you're not white, I don't know.
But now I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I'm going to ask you, Danielle. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you say all the time that like where you grew up, you were the minority as far as.
I would never say the minority, but because I grew up in Queens, Queens is the most diverse borough
in
all of New York. And I definitely had all groups of friends. I was just like really lucky with that. And I always pride myself on growing up in Queens because of that.
Right. But you're just a thought. Again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but like we were talking about it the other day, like your experience with acceptance of race and fitting in and things like that is different than Frank and I. I mean, growing up in Jamaica, Queens, you felt way more able, like you didn't even probably notice it a lot of the time.
Danielle, you grew up with all those different people and you decided to marry John?
What's
the matter with you?
She loves eggs.
Also, why is everybody on the show bald with a beard but me? I'm just saying it.
I am not bald,
Frank. You remember
the do not have a beard.
It's the trend.
But I'm the default.
You're the.
He's the default.
No, wait, Danielle, not to cut you off. I'm cutting you off. I also remember
Danielle's like, please cut me off.
looking in the mirror as this little skinny white kid with my brown hair brushed in the swoop that my mom did, and thinking to myself, there's nothing unique about you. You just look like everybody else. That's a true story.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm in therapy. Danielle, continue.
No, but I mean, Danielle, your experience had to have been different because you grew up in a more of a multicultural situation. So, like, I think it all starts when you're young, but at some point we all sort of, unfortunately, the country drives us to land in the same place. I don't know how or why that is. Like,
it depends on your mind. It depends I grew up in a very I went to school in a multicultural school, right? I had a lot of different types of friends. I had Indian friends, I had white friends, I had black friends, I had Brazilian friends. I was lucky enough to be in a situation here in the burbs to have to see different cultures and understand them. But honestly, John, and speaking just from my experience, is that it started in the home for us, right? My parents made it very clear on what type of people they thought my sister and I should be, right? And with that came the education of us being Black and how to navigate that, how to understand it, how to love it, how to appreciate it, and what to expect from that. So yes, the country can change the mindset, can change the narrative of a story or your own feelings in certain cases. But honestly, I think it also comes from a solid foundation of who you surround yourself with, right? I surrounded myself, I'm a huge family guy. So I was always around my family, and, you know, there's no racist part of us at all. And I surrounded myself with them to understand their struggles and to understand where they came from and how they persevered and maintained to still be good people despite being called the N-word, or despite being spit at, or despite not being able to show their faces in public, right? Because they were scared to go out, but they still maintained grace. They still maintained love through their faith to continue with life. And they taught my sister and I the same values. And since then, honestly, that foundation is what kept us focused. It's what kept us from not being easily led or watching the news and be like, you know, I hate all white people. White people hate us. I hate them. No, no, that's it. No, it's
Kayode, I do hate a lot of white people, though.
What's that?
I do hate a lot of white people. Parents say to me.
Listen, I have a list too, but we I got my list. It's not long.
Not because they're white.
It's not because it's not because they're white. You know, it's just a short list. It's a short list.
I don't know. I think and I can say this as a blanket statement, and I don't think I'm looking at the chat. Nobody in the chat's going to be angry at me. You know, if my extended family or my friends' family see this, maybe they'll get mad at me. But I also think white people are inherently selfish, and I'll say that because think about it. Why are and this is coming from a white guy, you know? When this first started, all I could think about was like, well, I'm not racist. It's not about me. It's not about me. Or like these people who go on and they say, it's not all cops. It's not all cops. Nobody's saying it's all cops. But you're making it about you. Maybe you have a husband or a brother who's a cop. Well, my brother's a cop. Good for your brother. I'm not saying that your brother is a racist. But maybe I'm not talking about him. Maybe I'm not talking about you.
But there is a difference between being racist and being prejudiced.
Yes.
No, I didn't study this. I'm just saying there's mindsets and then there's actions, I think. But go ahead.
But I also think, and I'm going out on a limb here, because I have a couple of friends who I know have talked to me about this before, who, if they grew up in like the suburbs, or they grew up in a multicultural neighborhood, people will try to strip your Blackness away from you and be like, wow, but you're not like that. Or like I have a friend who they'd say to him like, oh, but you're really not. I mean, you're Black, but you're the whitest Black guy I know. That's so offensive. That's really
it is offensive. I've gotten that too, which is crazy. Like I've that's so weird you said that, John, because I grew up around a very diverse group of people. And I've heard that same thing, but I was younger, so I didn't know any better. I just thought they were just being funny.
Right.
But now when you said it like that, it almost made me like, now my list of white people is longer now because of what you just said. Now it's like now it's like, oh, okay, now I got to put her on the list. No, but seriously, like,
Kayode, stop smashing the windows in there. What are you doing? John, take it back.
I gotta take it back. But that is so accurate. That is so accurate. Because as a black man, you get it on both sides. You get on the white side where, oh, you're not like that, right? And then you get on the black side like, you're not down enough, right? So you don't. Right, so sometimes it was hard for me to know where I fit in, right? Like to know where I was accepted. I always say that my blackness doesn't define me, right? It's something. I love it. I embrace it every single day. But to try to find when you're young, where in that group do you fit in, and you don't want to lose part of yourself in either group because you are who you are. As a young person, and I'm not speaking about that now, as a young person, it's hard to kind of navigate. But when you brought that up, it struck a chord. It struck a chord. It was like,
gotcha.
It was like, wow, yeah, I remember those conversations. It was,
I don't know. Yeah. I found myself growing up, and even still sometimes today, jealous of the culture. Like when you're like, oh, I'm really into blaxploitation films. I feel like I can be, but if I walked into a room and was like, yeah, well, I'm really into blaxploitation films, like, you can't really do that. Like, like, what do I have? I love my culture, but what do I have? What am I going to watch? The Godfather? How many times can I watch?
And John, have you actually seen it?
Yes. Okay, I have seen it.
I've never seen The Godfather.
Okay. Well, that's a problem. But,
never saw it.
I like, there's so much culture that can be lived in and experienced, but it's also not limited. I think that right now it's showing. Now it's showing that it's almost like, this is going to sound maybe really crazy if you take it all out of context on paper, but like, no, I guess not. You don't have to be black to be angry right now.
Absolutely not.
No way. And I think that's what a lot of people, again, are making it about themselves, where they're like, oh, it's not about me. But like, I don't know. Like I said,
do you think by white people saying, look, this is not about me right now, is in a way selfish?
Well, okay. I'll say this. Now, Kayode, I don't want to pull this out away from you, but Frank and I are finding a very small, interesting pocket in the social media culture right now among white people, where, and like I said before, you don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
I don't have not one single black friend who would come at me for saying something that maybe isn't, it's the right idea, but like putting up the black squares on Instagram, right? I saw a lot of people, a lot of my black friends who were like, don't use the hashtag.
Right.
Yes.
But these days, for some reason, more white people are coming after other white people for not saying the right thing or doing the right thing, which is so weird to me, because it's like, if it's about you guys, and if you guys why
you didn't use the hashtag, man? What's wrong with you? Yeah. What are you thinking?
I don't know. That's such a weird. It's a weird little.
But you got to remember, it was really not, again, taboo. This was not really socially acceptable just to start talking about until 4 days ago. We're not even at a week. Are we even at a week? Like, we don't know how, not we white people, we never did this like this.
Right.
Maybe our grandpa, not us. It's all, we don't know how to do it.
Right.
And now we have to, but the difference too, John, is now that we have social media, we all can go public with ideas.
Yes.
Right.
We haven't even fully formed yet. And then we have to, you're mitigating, like, well, how am I perceived, or how are white people perceived? Because you said, there's a lot, and it's a lot of pressure on everybody. And I tell this to my kids, I work as a guidance counselor, to have to grow up, period, and have to live publicly. Can you imagine us at 13 having to go public about anything?
It would have been horrible. I could tell you, me 13 with social media, it would have been a terrible day for me.
Terrible.
I
have been doing magic tricks with pimples on my forehead. Get out of here. I don't belong
We
there.
haven't been acknowledging the comments at all, but I do have to acknowledge the comments right now. The comments are misconstruing what I said as not being anti-racist. You need to come out as anti-racist. White people do need to check other white people, but you don't need to check them because they're saying the right thing in the wrong way. I shouldn't be afraid of my white friends when I post something about Black Lives Matter. I shouldn't be afraid that my white friends are going to come after me. Like,
right, John, that doesn't matter to me, right? As long as I see, as long as we see or I see that you understand what's happening and get it, and you are in support of it. That is the message that needs to be. I don't care about you messed up on a hashtag or you put your square had a little white border around. I don't care about that, right? Yeah. I care about knowing that my white friends understand that their Black friends is going through something emotionally. Has been going on for decades and centuries through our ancestors, and now we're seeing it again. And now we need to know that those same people that we hang out with, that we fellowship with, who are white, that listen to the music and love the culture and buy the things that are associated with the culture, are now supporting the culture when it's needed and necessary. That's what we need to see, right? Because then what's going to happen is, and unfortunately what happened with Drew Brees, the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, he got destroyed on social media because
he maybe said the wrong thing.
He said the wrong thing at the wrong time. But he also plays on a team who is a predominantly African American, right? And to show that you have no level of awareness is scary, right? It's shocking, because that same guy, every week, they're protecting, putting their own bodies on the line for him, right? Not just for the game, and not because it's just their job, because that's their guy, right? So Black people don't need to know that these white people, their white friends, are their guy. Like those are their people, and that they can rely on them being there when they need them, especially now. So,
I mean, I don't know. I think that's because seeing is believing, right? A lot of the time, you can hear that a cop pulls over a Black guy. He's already going to be hand on his gun on edge.
Right.
You can hear that. Yeah. But if you're not racist, and if I say, if I'm like, I'm not racist, none of my friends are racist, therefore this isn't happening, which is what a lot of the people on the, I don't want to say Republican, I don't want to say Trumpers, but on the other side, I'm not trying to draw lines either, but you know.
I love you. You always speak with so many qualifiers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's how I landed Danielle.
That's how you.
What?
There's so many add-ons, a lot of parentheses in my sentence.
Danielle, I know you grew up with a lot of people. You met a lot of diverse people, but I would like to marry you. I am a white man, and you are a white woman.
Got an egg.
Our children will be white. I understand.
Parentheses in it. No, but they don't see it. So they think it's not happening. That's not true. You're bullying police because it's not happening. I know what's not happening. You guys are out there and you are bullying police. Blue Lives Matter. That's where the issue comes from. They're not seeing it. They don't see it in their circle.
Because what happens if you have to admit it?
Yeah.
If you see it, you can't unsee it. Said, what do you? Yeah, denial again. It's there's a lot of
all denial. It's selfish and it's denial that is, I think, stopping a lot of this from moving forward. It's the people that you see who are denying that it's happening.
Yeah.
Maybe because maybe because they have a brother who's a cop, or maybe because they have, people have reasons. And I have to say this, and I don't know, again, more qualifiers, but I do have to say this. I feel very strongly on this whole thing. I stand with the movement. I stand with the change needs to happen. I also don't know if these people who are like, it's hard to say because I don't want any racist friends, right?
What?
But like,
No, your setup just now was the equivalent of when a white guy's like, look, I'm not racist, but that's really
no.
and I am so nervous.
I'm gonna take an example.
I'm gonna shut my laptop.
I'm gonna take an example. Say, Frank, your father's second cousin, who you know well, writes, I don't agree with this movement. They're not racist. They're just like, I don't agree with this movement. The looting is wrong. Blue lives matter. I don't think you need to unfriend that person or cut them out of your life. That person is your family, and you know that person. You know they're not a bad person, but they're misguided. And don't you think it's more important to try to get through to that person or try to, I think hate begets hate, right? Mm. So I have people who I love who support, somebody who I don't, and I don't hate them for it. I can't, because I know them, but you have to educate. And I think that's another thing that's right now it's happening is there's so much.
That's what's important, John, is that we have to there needs to be some type of education, right? I think people are just responding. They're looking at the wrong, that's what I was saying. The message is being clouded by the looting and the fires and the violence and things like that, right? If you really care about knowing what this movement is all about, you'll take the time to understand what the movement's all about. You'll go on the websites, you'll read up, you'll understand, right? This is happening in your country. You're not just going to sit. What's happening is people, in my opinion, it is those who are ignorant to what's happening. Those are the people who refuse to do the necessary research to understand why this is happening.
Right.
So that is where what you said, that is very important I'm not going to cut you out of my life. If I love you, of course, right? I'm going to try to have a conversation with you and really have you understand what's happening. And if we have this conversation, you still don't understand, then there's a problem, right? But what we do about that, I don't know what we do about that. We'll get there later.
Right now, you don't agree that Black Lives Matter. There's a problem. Right now, there's a problem. You're not saying, you're not agreeing that this is something needs to be done. There's a problem, right? That's
Yes, and that, to me, people need to, and this goes for Black people who are outraged and want to read up on what. I always encourage people to do their research, right? Don't just join and jump in a protest if you don't know what the protest is all about, right? It is our duty as people, right, to make sure that we have the proper information before we do anything. And I think it's important that those who are just saying Blue Lives Matter, stop the looting, looting's terrible, I hate these protests, it just means nothing. They're not doing their due diligence to get up on what's happening, to allow themselves to really understand, right? And a lot of these people are not just young people like you and I. These are also older people who I would think know better, because probably lived during the times where this was really in your face, right? Like this was this was law in some places, right? And you would think that they would now, with the access they are given, would do the proper research to be like, you know what, I understand. I am still for cops not getting killed, but I do understand where you're coming from, and I don't like it, and I'm going to support it any way I need to. But to me, that conversation needs to happen.
It's about representation, right?
You know?
Yeah.
But for some people, it's a tough sell because it's not their problem.
Right.
It's not their problem, right?
I mean, look, it's a systemic problem, but they don't take it home every day. They don't think about it. Right. They don't have to.
So then let's put a pin. Let's decide. Let's put an end on this.
You want to play a rating game?
Okay. So yes, we want to play a rating game because that's the way our show is, right?
Oh, nice.
This is our show, And so I want to play a rating game, and then I just want to put a nice, see what we can do. You know?
All right, so Kayode, you're gonna rate the following white people from 1 to don't get.
I was actually ready. I was like, all right, who are you giving me
All
first?
right, number 1, Martha Stewart. Fred Flintstone. We know he's a cartoon.
He said Martha Stewart. Listen, Kayode and I have very strong feelings on Martha Stewart.
Oh my God.
We do.
You do.
We spend a lot of time with her.
We have spent a lot of time with her.
Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley, diabetes.
The character Fred Mertz, not the actor. Granted, he was gray. We know he's white. Okay. Real game. John and I thought you could have us rate, because we do not know African American cinema. Blaxploitation.
We know some. I mean, he hasn't seen Black Panther yet, but we're
Okay. That you might.
I'm going down the Marvel list. I'm up to.
He's one away. I tried to rush him to watch Black Panther in time for tonight. But
okay.
Maybe a little prejudice. Okay. And that, children, is called a microaggression. So, Kayode, can you name like underground Black movies, maybe that are not mainstream, that John and I would not know what they were, and we're gonna just rate them by title?
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Judge books by their cover.
We're gonna judge these books right by the cover. So you give us some blaxploitation films, and we're gonna rate them.
Ooh, and you're simply going by the title.
Just by the title.
Isn't that ironic?
I like it. Okay, right.
See how we did it? Okay.
All right, so first film,
and maybe we'll tell you what we think the story is. I don't know.
Oh, okay. How about this one? The Spook Who Sat by the Door.
I hate this game. I'm not comfortable with it. No. I love it. It's about a friendly ghost. I give it a 10. No.
Did I start off too strong? Okay, wait.
Can you not do that one? Thank you.
Love it.
We've never talked about this before. You can't.
By the way, that is a film that it is a must see. But
yeah.
I'm writing these down.
Yeah,
I think I might post them in the comments. I'm gonna write them down.
I want that on my Netflix, man.
It's a smart. It is a smart, well done movie. It is. It has you thinking.
I love the title.
Has you thinking. All right, I'll give you another.
Can you imagine if me and John watched the movie called The Sat by the Door, what Netflix would keep suggesting, and then the FBI would come?
I want to point out that your internet just censored you.
You did.
On purpose?
No, but you said it and the internet went out on that word.
Did it really?
Good. I'm not even going to say it again.
All right, I have another one.
Okay.
Sweebacks Badasssss song.
Sweet. How many comments is in that?
Yeah, there's a lot. Sweebacks Badasssss song.
So Sweetback is the character.
Sweetback, yes, that is his nickname.
Sweetback. That's a good one.
Sweetback's Badass Song?
Yes.
I love the title.
It's a classic. It's a Marlon Van Peebles movie.
What decade is this?
This is 70s.
70s. Okay.
Yeah,
John, what would you
We have a film buff in the comments who's just loving this.
Oh, is it?
he's
after you answer, I can type in the synopsis.
Okay, I love it. John, you love it, obviously.
Oh yeah, 100%.
We love wordplay. We love
wordplay.
That's funny to me. And I think it's about a down on his luck guy who realizes that he makes a song. Obviously, there's a song in this, so there's some dancing, and he makes the song, and it changes a lot of people's minds. And then he kicks ass, and there's a lot of blood, and he's singing while he's kicking ass.
I would say he's wearing leather. That's the only thing I'll know about the movie.
He's got some leather on, and he is kicking ass, and making love to a lot of women.
Yeah.
Very, very. It is a Black cinema classic.
Keeps a lot of women on their sweet backs.
Yeah. It does.
That's it. Somebody wrote Shaft in the comments. How dare you? We're not.
No, I gotta say, having never seen any of them, I loved that Shaft is the one film franchise that it's like there've been 8 Terminator movies and you roll your eyes. Shaft, there's been what, 3 plus the TV show, right?
Yeah. Wait,
or not even the TV show, just the 3. I don't know.
The 3. I think there's been 3 movies. Yeah.
Yeah,
4 or 5 actually. Yeah.
They've continued through the decades, adding to the original cast, and I love continuity. Shaft is great. The continuity is fantastic.
Yes, it's fantastic. Yeah,
the fact that the last one came out with the original Shaft as the grandfather, and then Sam Jackson as the dad, and then the son. Shaft, it's great.
Yeah, listen, I dig those movies. I like them. Those
what's
are good.
another one?
This one I recently saw. Norman, Is That You?
I hate the title.
Right off the bat, I would think that was maybe a Neil Simon comedy. Like
I was going to say Jewish. It's Jewish
comedy.
All right.
Is that you?
Norman,
all right. So it's about a black Jewish guy on the east side.
Frank, I want to point out that our friend Denise Eversley just joined, and the first thing she probably heard was you saying a black Jewish guy.
Welcome, Denise. Okay, so I think it's about a black Jew. But what's the movie called? Norman, Is That You?
Yes, Norman, Is That You?
Okay, I think it's about a racist apartment building complex, and there's a black Jewish guy, and he applies to live in the apartment. He has his white friend fill out the paperwork. Norman, the black Jewish guy, moves into the apartment. He's hiding. It's a little like Three's Company. And the landlord's wife, who is a Jewish woman, looks through the peephole and says, Norman, is that you? And then it's a lot of like...
Wow, you just wrote a Jewish movie and just...
That is a hell of a movie.
No, but he has to hide because he's not white.
So what's the movie about?
So the film is about, it stars Red Fox, classic comedian. Red Fox.
Yeah.
And it has something to do with an apartment building.
Well, Red Fox, I assume.
It does. He
it.
goes to visit his son, who is living in California now. What Red Fox's character finds out is that his son is gay and has a white boyfriend.
Ooh!
Wow, so much better than what I said.
Yes.
I like that.
That's a comedy.
Forward-thinking
comedy,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, so wait, when did that come out?
That was 70s as well. I don't know the exact date.
No, I mean, I can look it up. Google.
For anybody who just tuned in, we're playing the rating game where Kayode gives us blaxploitation film titles and we assume what they're about.
Actually, one of our listeners, Kathy Murphy, wants to know if there are any Black experience films that take place in a rural setting.
In a rural setting?
Not like Black Snake Moan with
oh God.
Christina Ricci's finest hour.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Yeah, Sam Jackson's finals hour. A rural, let me think. There is
apparently we've got one in the comments. Three the Hard Way is apparently one that I've heard of.
Three the Hard Way. Yes, that's that. Three the Hard Way. I recently oh man, I want to look at it, but there's a film called The Learning Tree. It's not blaxploitation, but it's early Black cinema. That is more rural. That's an excellent film. Just speaks about the Black experience. Period. That's rural.
Us? Someone was like Us.
Do they still make blaxploitation films?
It's funny. Some would say that Tyler Perry's films with the Medea character is sort of a throwback to the blaxploitation, which is the stereotype of a Black over-the-top grandmother, right? Because that's essentially I believe Tyler said that character is based off of his grandmother, right? But his films are not blaxploitation. So to answer your question, there are no hardcore blaxploitation films meant to give you that feeling like they were back in the 70s. Right. But there are some films that do pay homage to it that were made in the 80s, like The Last Dragon. The Last Dragon is a cult classic, that was made in like 83, 84, maybe even later than that, which is a mixture of towards the end of blaxploitation era, but goes back to it to pay homage to it in that film.
Okay.
So if you ever see that, The Last Dragon is by far the cult, black cinema cult classic that everyone must watch.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've seen some of the artwork and stuff.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
I just watched Dolomite Is My Name. Is that what it's called? The name of it, right?
Yeah, Dolomite Is My Name. Yeah.
I'd like to see that one.
But that was like an inside look at like behind the scenes of a film like
of the film Dolomite. Yeah, Dolomite is
yeah.
also a blaxploitation film.
I also just saw Undercover Brother, which I think is a comedy version of a blaxploitation film.
That is paying straight homage to
I didn't
It
judge
really
it.
is?
That movie 1,000
I
times.
was just laughing at him.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a great movie.
Yeah, Undercover Brother. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's a great movie. It's one of those.
Yeah.
So, all right, hit us with one more. Tell me about this. I collect movies, okay? So every once in a while, they release these films, these kind of cult films or niche films on Blu-ray sometimes, and they come up on my Blu-ray set where I track what comes out every week. Yeah, I know. That's a thing for me. And one of them that I kept seeing was this movie called Badasssss with like 8 S's. Is that a movie? It's a blaxploitation movie, but
do you know the year by any chance?
I don't.
1971.
1971. Badasssss. It's got like
It
9.
has 5 S's.
5 S's. Look it up.
I love to think that 2 people wrote that script and they finish, they get to the title page, and one guy's like, hit it again. Oh, hit that again. Hit that S again. Hit it again. And then they were like dying that they did it.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna look
check
that
out.
up.
Gonna check that
Yeah.
out.
I
So,
got to
all right. Well, so if you have one more, we'll take one more.
I got one more.
Okay.
This one is Coolie High.
No, I hate when you do ones like this. Please don't put the racist words in the titles. No, I'm not.
Coolie High.
No, I won't do it. No.
I would say it's about a high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's about all I'm willing to give.
That's okay.
Okay, I'll say this. Twist of fate. It's about an all-black high school that takes their first white student.
Interesting. It is about a high school.
Now you've made it about you again, Frank.
It is about a high school.
But he's a minor character.
It's about a high school, and it just follows the story of 4 high school friends who you just see their experiences as young black men in the inner city through that high school.
Okay.
It's got the smart guy, it's got the jock, it's got the guys who do no good in the community. Like you got a mixture of people, and how easily their surroundings can either trap them or they can excel out of it. It's a very very interesting, powerful film that I would definitely I recommend them all. I love them all. But
I got a question as we wrap up, I think, but we're all involved in the arts in some way, some whatever. Whether we just love movies or we make art or whatever, or theater.
Wait, I gotta step in. This was our film expert in the comments has pointed out that although it's not the cover that I know, because the cover that I know has snakes on it, but there is a chance that Sweebacks Badasssss song has 5 S's in the badass. So it might be that movie.
it might be the same movie.
But I don't know. The one I know, it definitely has snakes on the cover, but I'm not going to look for it now.
But so then maybe that wasn't the same one. I actually added the synopsis into it.
Yeah. So sorry, go back to Frank.
Oh my God, did you read this though? So in Sweebacks Badass Song, it says, Van Peebles offers an unapologetic account of Melvin's brash and deceptive conduct on the set of the film, including questionable antics, blah, 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 like allowing his son Mario to shoot racy sex scenes at the age of 11.
Yes. So in the film, Mario, who's Melvin's son, I mispronounced Melvin's son, Mario is in a really well, graphic love scene with an adult woman, and it sets the tone for the entire film. That's all I'm saying. It pretty much lets you know what you're about to see. It's insane. But
all
great.
right, I'm gonna get right out of that topic because it makes it comfortable. So shuts the laptop. So my question was, with all of this moving forward and life continuing on and changing and adapting, what role do you think art can play in this whole thing? That's what I want to know. As a guy who loves film, but you know, we love theater, and where does that go?
Art can go a long way. I believe art will be one of the modes of communication and one of the modes of protest moving forward from a lot of Black young artists. It is the escape for us. It is the storytelling of our lives. And now what I believe is going to happen is that people are going to start expressing that 100% through dance, through film, through TV, through actual art, through clothing, through music. We're going to see it, and it's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to be what the music in the 70s, 60s, and 70s were for Black people at the time, right? You know, you had Marvin Gaye, you singing about what's going on, and you had you had so many Black artists using that platform during times of injustice and during the times of segregation and when racism was at its 100% fullest to tell stories and to get people aware. So now,
since history repeats, do you then think that whatever music comes out in 10 years from now, that means in 30 years from now, my cousins who are white will awkwardly dance to at a Sweet 16?
That's possible. Yes, that is possible.
Art is progress.
Yes, that is possible. Yes, that is absolutely possible.
Yes.
But yeah,
it's on the 1 and the 3. I love it.
It's gonna be the mode of expression, for sure. So. And I think it's gonna have a huge place, a huge part of it.
I hope so. But and you know, someone in the comments asked, do we think that the daily protests will make a difference? And the answer, we don't have the answer, right? That's the whole point, is you don't have the answer. It's kind of like what I said at the beginning of the show, is like, we don't have the answers. Or rather, I mean, because you would if you didn't have the answers, but there are no answers. But that doesn't mean that you can stop asking. Mm-hmm. You know, like you have to move, you have to try to move forward. Right now, I don't want to, you know, I felt a little guilty. This is a terrible thing to say. But like, once people stopped dying, right, with the coronavirus I'm talking about now, once it stopped dying and it you know, started to calm down, then I was like, man, I hope we don't go into phase 1 too quickly, because like, I'm used to this life now, right? Like, which is terrible, but for like small business owners, but they're not watching it.
Right.
But this, I am like terrified that this is gonna stop. That the protests are gonna stop next week. Come Monday, there'll be less demonstrations and less demonstrations. You know, and I don't want that. That's what happens always. It's always what happens. And then it goes back and we just keep doing the same thing again. And I don't know. I can't, you know, that can't happen, or else you're never gonna see a change. And I don't even know what the change is. Can you protest enough to change somebody's mind? Even if you don't know, especially if you don't know who the somebody really is? What do you say, the police? It's not a blanket statement. It's not all cops, okay? We know that. It's not all cops. We say that. It's a societal thing. So whose mind are you even trying to change? What do you change? I don't know, but it's got to be something.
You know, I feel with this protest in particular, we have seen a more and a bigger outpouring of emotion that's driving this, where I believe that we will see, I believe that what's going to come from this, I believe, is that people will start to understand each other just a little more, right? I believe they'll try to really understand some people, not all, right? I believe that some white people at some point will really try to understand what Black people are going through and have gone through. I think they will I think they will be more sensitive to it. And I think
statistically, that number is low. There are 3 white people here. Which of us do you think is more likely to help? Look at us. Look at us first. Remember who has a master's degree in counseling. Look at us.
I picked Danielle. We know that.
I picked Danielle, but Danielle was my pick. Yes, I picked Danielle. But listen, as a Christian man, and as a man who believes and has faith, I do believe that this has definitely stirred up emotions that will bring up better conversations with people. I want to believe that. I think I think as far as the mindset of people, that's not easily changed, because like I mentioned before, things are ingrained, and once it's ingrained in a culture or in a mindset or in a family structure, it's hard to get that out, because that's all you know. But I believe there will be better conversation. That's what I think is going to come from this. I think we'll better understand each other in ways that we haven't before. I don't see major change coming unless there's someone out there who really pushes an agenda for a Black agenda for change, right? Where things get better in communities that are getting hit. People who of color possibly get the jobs that they deserve because they're qualified and not being discriminated because of the color. Like, I believe all that stuff, all these situations can happen. But again, like Frank said, I think it's going to look like this, very slow. But from this in particular, I think there'll be better conversation. I think we'll be more open to stuff like this, forums like this.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. I mean, I'm all for it. And I just want to put a reminder out there, because I know there's a lot of people who are feeling like I felt about this. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. You don't feel like you're in the right place. Just supporting is really, it's not, listen, if everybody was just supporting, it's not enough, but I don't know, like you were saying, like, you think that this could perhaps lead to a boom in African-American cultures, art, in clothing, in music. Does that mean that, now do I have to only post stories about that going forward? Is that my life? Do I have to change everything that I'm doing? No, you don't know. No, I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. But just being there, being understanding, being considerate, and seeing, they will see the change you want to be, right? But like, see the change, be the change in yourself, and you could spread that outwards. I think it's if you're a rally person, like I said in the beginning, if you're a rally person, go to the rallies. Definitely. If you're a protester, go to the protesting. Go protest. Definitely. If you're not a rally person or a protester, you don't have to feel bad for that. You can support in other ways. You can support financially. There's plenty of ways to do that. You can support just vocally, or you could have dialogues like Frank and I are, and Danielle. That's what we're trying to do, because we don't know where we fit in this. And then we look at our platform and we go, we can do this, which is something. So, I think it's important to remember to do something. And nobody's going to tell you that what you're doing is not enough, or that you have to do something that doesn't feel natural to you. Like, like you said before we're coming into this, when I was like, oh, I'm nervous about this. And you were like, no, just speak from the heart. Do what you feel. Say what you really feel. I mean, certain people could use to not say what they feel. But you know, I think that's important. It's just important to be together and to stand together through this, and keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
That's you know, I don't know.
Yep. I agree.
But it's a weird note for me to go say.
How do we wrap this show up? I'm like, I've been thinking for the last 6 minutes. Oh shit! I don't know how to get out of this.
Well, that's the
All right,
problem.
Kayode, we'll talk to you in the
Should I
morning.
just close?
You're
Should I
not
just
getting
close
out of
my
it, that's
screen?
the
Slowly close it down.
No,
No,
just slowly.
listen.
Oh,
this-
I do want to say one more thing. Shit, sorry, I forgot. I put it in the comments on the chat, but I think that a lot of I think a big buzzword that I keep thinking about a lot is blind spots. And I think when you have privilege, it gives you blind spots that you don't even know other people don't have. Like I never have to think about, what am I wearing when I leave the house? How does it make me look? Am I going to be targeted for something? I never worry. I don't want to get pulled over by the cops, but I don't ever think, I was going a little fast, I could come out of this dead. So we don't have to, it gives you a blind spot where, or multiple, where you don't have to use this excess unnecessary mental energy to navigate and to make allowances and think about things like that. I never have to think about those things.
Right.
But I don't realize I don't have to think about it unless I really keep hearing from you that you have to think about it. So all of this is at least good for realizing you have blind spots.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Quick, close the laptops. Quick, he did it.
Before. No, but guys, you having this forum and having this platform and being able to talk about it, understanding where you guys come from and how you see it, and it's been a true, I would say, true blessing to see that you guys are aware, right? Because that's important, and that's what people they just want to know, that you are aware, and what are you going to do to further the message, right? From donating to supporting platforms of people of color, to supporting businesses, you know, the things that we as Black people have not fully 100% gotten from white people, right? And just to know that they understand and are supporting in many different ways, it pushes this narrative further, which then could lead to significant change in conversation between people of all colors. So that's important.
You got to be able to talk about it.
Got to be able to talk about it.
This is also where comedy helps.
Absolutely.
It does take the air out of the tire a little bit.
It does. It does.
That's what we're here for.
Like, Kayode, I never met you. I don't know. I met you an hour and 52 minutes ago. But
Yes.
if you weren't doing it like this, I could not imagine sitting down with you at a restaurant and being like, tell me about how it is to be Black. I would. Do we split the bill? I don't even know.
Yeah, we're definitely splitting the bill. We're definitely splitting the bill.
All
But
right, fair enough.
Make no mistake.
Make no mistake.
So Kayode, quick, let's I want to promote your stuff too. You have stuff to promote.
Yep.
So let's quickly as quickly as you want. Where am I going? My pizza's been here for an hour and a half. So tell us about your channel. What's it called? Where can we find it?
So
Can we get there yet? Is the question.
yeah, right. So my wife and I run a film review channel called Scriptly Adapted Entertainment. One of our main focuses of the film channel is that we interview local artists in film or TV. We've been doing that for a while, and that's on our Facebook, Scriptly Adapted. You can check us out on Instagram at Scriptly Adapted. There you go. YouTube, we have a myriad of shows on there that you could check out that we've done.
Damn, he just dropped myriad in regular conversation. Fuck this guy. I don't like this guy. Don't even say myriad, please.
It just kind of came out. It just
Don't
kind of
say
good.
myriad.
So good.
it just kind of came out.
Oh, God. That's the worst part of the whole show.
It is.
You think our watchers know myriad? We tell fart jokes. Myriad. Sorry.
We also I run Blaxploit, which is a film show that I host, where we talk about some Blaxploitation films as well. So we're out there trying to just create content, and we have an interview this Sunday with a local director who filmed her first short. So we're gonna do that on our artist roundtable section of our show. So that'll be coming out mid next week. So yeah, man, we're just trying to stay creative much as
yes,
that's absolutely right. And soon you'll have a nice website that'll have all.
I know, can't wait. Can't wait.
It's so close. Very exciting.
And so I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for coming on and being, honest and sharing your feelings on the whole thing with us. It's a tough time, but I think creating, like you said, going forward is important. I'm really glad, Frank, that we decided to go forward with. Oh, and your question in the comments, you're Brooklyn based or you're New York based, correct? Yeah. So it's a New York based show. We have this show that we do Fridays. We'll be here again next Friday. It probably won't be as good as this. I'm not gonna lie to you.
This was so good. I'm so happy we did this. I loved it.
We will be live on Instagram tomorrow night, doing a cocktail hour where we're
doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Yes.
All right.
We'll be doing cocktail hour tomorrow night, where we will be celebrating. It's funny that it happened to be this way.
That is funny. Yeah.
Why we continued to go with it was because we decided to do rainbow colored drinks tomorrow night. It's we do cocktail hour as a show we do on Instagram Saturday nights at 7, where Danielle and Frank's wife Sam hang behind the bar and teach us how to make some drinks. And they're doing rainbow drinks tomorrow. It was for the start of Pride Month, but I think it could not be more apt to what's kind of happening right now, and like sort of celebrating the myriad of colors, as it were.
I love it.
So we'll be doing that tomorrow night as well. And thank you for doing this. And everybody get your merchandise at the Threadless shop. But whatever.
And guys, I just want to thank you guys for having me on and having allowing this platform and this dialogue to happen. I appreciate you. I'm sure Black people who would be watching this and tuning in, they'll appreciate it, just to know that there are people out there who are aware and support. So that's comes from the heart. Thank you guys.
Well,
Amen.
Yep, thank you. And all right,
I guess it's time to dance.
There you go. Yes, we will dance, and we will see you guys all. Oh, and this show will be available on the podcast platform as well. So probably starting tomorrow, this show will be available on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere. Like this show we just did will be available via the podcast platform to share as well.
So you could play it for your racist uncle and tell him it's the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
Let's dance.
You've been listening to the Nothing Podcast with Nobody Important, a cool side production hosted by John Panepinto and Frank Caiati, with contributors Matt Hunt, Joe Hagopian, and Tom Zaccheo, and engineered by me, Danielle Rosefisher. Find us online at nothing-podcast.com, and be sure to rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are distributed.